I am Stefan Becker. I want to share with you some impressions of my trek in the Himalaya along the Manaslu circuit, the spectacular trail that leads around the 8th highest mountain in the world. Our journey begins in Kathmandu, which is the trading crossroads of the Himalaya between India and China. The city is a melting pot of migrating peoples. Kathmandu probably has the greatest concentration of temples, shrines, monasteries, or idols anywhere across the globe. It is a vacation day here in Kathmandu, and I was assured the city would be as good as empty. So today I spent a day in Kathmandu, and tomorrow we'll start our trek. I can't wait. The road from Kathmandu to Arogat, which is the trailhead of the Manaslu circuit, is extremely rough. The trip can only be done in an off-road car or bus, and it will rattle your bones. It winds through farmlands with rich fields of millet or rice. As this farmer explains, Nepal has planned a large hydropower project along the river that will soon drown most of the villages and farmlands we are passing by and force the villagers to find new places to live. Our car is supposed to take us all the way to the village Sotikola. However, crossing a river without a bridge turns out to be impossible. So our hike starts a couple of miles earlier than planned. The real trek begins after Sotikola. There is no bridge for vehicles to pass the river gorge, which means that from now on everything has to be carried by humans or mules. Picturesque villages along the trail offer lodges and restaurants. We cross the river numerous times on shaking, narrow bridges, hundreds of feet above the raging torrents. Hiking along these lower sections of the trail in the hot and humid conditions of early October cause your clothes to be soaked in sweat within minutes. Substantially steep climbs up and down over the high bluffs along the west bank of the Budi Gandaki River are reminders that the Manaslu trek is harder than the Annapurna circuit because the gorge is cut more deeply through the Himalaya. Today we left Jagat behind us, and it's another 8-hour hike to Deng. We spent the nights in lodges that can be found in the villages along the trail. There's virtually nothing to do after sunset, so people gather in the kitchen. We mainly eat dal bhat, steamed rice with cooked lentils, which is the most popular staple food in Nepal. Whoever has anything to do in that area needs to walk along the only trail that exists. These students explain how they helped one of the village schools high up in the mountains and are now on their way home. Many villages suffered major damages during the 2015 earthquake and had to be rebuilt. Landslides and rockfalls also destroyed many sections of the trail and require even more up and down efforts today. We frequently encounter caravans of mules on the sometimes narrow trails that border steep cliffs. The basic rule is to let the mules pass you by on the side of the cliff. What the video cannot reveal is the constantly lingering smell of mule shit that accompanies the seemingly idyllic hike. Wild marijuana plants are found along the trail in the lower section. Nepal was famed for its marijuana in the 1970s, when hippies chose the back alleys of Kathmandu to indulge their lethargic habits. Basic healthcare is only available in the first villages on the trail. As you reach higher regions, you better make sure that you stay healthy and you have no accident. Otherwise, you have to see how you can return, or you have to try and get a helicopter to pick you up. We eventually reached the village Lo at an elevation of around 10,000 feet. For the first time, we encounter yaks. The yak is a valuable animal to the people that live here. Yaks supply transport, milk, protein, fur, hoof, dung, bone, skin, and tail. Tea is made with yak milk and is a staple part of the diet of yak herders. Namaste. Above the village thrones the Ribang Monastery, which houses many novice child monks. The boy explains to us that he has to be educated for 9 years before becoming a monk. The education is focused entirely on religion. From Lo, we get our first good view of the Manaslu, which is one of the 14 mountains that are over 8,000 meters high. It is the 8th highest mountain in the world. The first attempts to climb Manaslu were made in 1952 and 1953 by mountaineers from Japan. In 1954, another Japanese team tried, but they were met with hostility by the villagers who claimed that the gods were angered by the previous approaches, resulting in a devastating avalanche. The peak was finally reached by another Japanese expedition in 1956.
Oh no, you're all good. No worries.
We are approaching Samagaon. This is where we're gonna stay for 2 nights and try to get adapted to the altitude. It's here around about 3,500 meters, but we'll try to get over 4,500 meters to get used to it. We spent an extra day in Samagaon to adapt to the altitude. The idea is to climb a bit higher and then spend the night back in the village. We hike past a glacial lake toward the Manaslu base camp. Even though the Manaslu trek is by far not as busy as the Annapurna trail, you will meet quite a few fellow trekkers, such as these funny Australians who were called the Three Bears.
Manaslu base camp!
We finally reached the last village before the pass, Samdo, at an elevation of almost 13,000 feet. The village was established by Tibetans who fled during the 1950s Chinese move into Tibet. The houses are made from dry stone walls and roofed by stone slabs. The ground floors are used for yaks and mules, whose hot breath keeps the villagers on the first floor warm during the cold winter months. The locals spent their days in the fields, collecting firewood and watching their yaks. Following the trail from Samdo towards the Larke Pass, the countryside is bleak and barren, but has the certain mystical charm that so endears visitors to Tibetan landscapes. Showering or even changing clothes at these temperatures and with the available facilities simply was not happening in the last days, and I believe that trekkers and yaks must have a similar smell in these regions. We are on the last stretch towards the pass at around 4,000 meters, a little bit higher. In the afternoon, we reached Larkya Pedi, which is also known as Dharamsala, meaning Pilgrim's Rest House. The lodge is very basic, even against our, by now, very low expectations. We try to sleep in tents, but the hard underground and freezing temperatures at night make this an impossible feat. Yaks are snorting and pooping around our tents at night, and we count the minutes to finally get up at 4 a.m. and attack the final and hardest part of the trail. Light snow is falling during our ascent, and it feels like I'm breathing through a straw due to the thin air. I reached the pass at almost 17,000 feet around 9 a.m. in the morning. The cold temperatures and the increasing wind cause us not to linger but move right off the pass. On the next morning, in Bimtang on the other side of the pass, the clouds dissipate and allow for unobstructed views on the Manaslu.
We are in Bimtang,
On the left is the Manaslu North, and the mountain in the back in the middle of the picture is the Manaslu. The downhill hike on the last day toward Darapani is rocky first and pleasant afterwards. We walk for more than 17 miles and take over 38,000 steps. Accommodation standards are increasing again, and the bumpy road takes us finally back to Kathmandu.
Okay, just hold on.
Yes.
Say.
Okay.